Okay, what we have here is we have an austerizer. And I like the austerizer because it can fit on these. Now the reason I don't like to use a bowl is because oxygen gets in. This doesn't seal completely. Oxygen, air gets down inside. There's also oxygen space in this lid, the top. So as the power moves the food, oxygen gets in there and oxidizes some of the nutrients, and you can lose up to 1/3 of your nutrients just in blending. So what we want to do is we want to use a jar for the size and amount of product that we have to blend, so we don't have a lot of oxygen in it. And how we do that is we remove this, we unscrew the base, and there we have the base. We have the blades, and then we have the washer. And we can just put this aside. I never use it, the blender base. Now, it is not necessarily a legal thing, and you'll do this at your own risk. I have never broken a jar. I have heard of 2 breaks in the 32 years that I have done it. I think that's because the washer got caught around the blade and they were blending some almonds. I do not suggest anyone blend almonds. They're too tough, they're too hard, and they can break a glass. Don't grind bones, anything like that in here. Any kind of pits, anything that's very hard, not a good idea. So what we do is we take the washer, we put it on the blender jar. You see how that works? Then we put the blades inside that, and then you see if you have a good sized washer. If the washer that comes with the blender is too thin and they're made in different shapes, this is what will happen. The blender will get, the blade washer will get inside the jar, it'll catch on the blade, it'll cut up the washer and make a mess. And you have food all over the place. So we want to make sure that you have a washer. What I did on some of the austerizers that come with a thin washer, I buy a Cuisinart washer for my austerizer blender. And you can see a little bit of washer all the way around the metal and the blade, so you know where it is in its position and not down inside the jar. If you have ingredients in the jar, of course you cannot see down inside the jar. So then you screw this on top like this, and let's say I'm making a sauce. And I'll have some butter and tomato, and maybe a little garlic and onion in there. And this is a sauce for one meal. And what I do is turn it on. Now you have low and you have high here, and then you have different speeds with those. So we've got 10 speeds here. So I'll put it on low, and this low also. And there it blends. Now you can turn it off on the pulsation or the off switch. So it's very easy. And there we have a small amount of mixture blended easily. Like I say, we can use the size of jar, and we will do that today as you see us prepare various things. So different sizes of jars for the different amounts that's required for the particular recipe. Now when we get into some jars like this where it is not easy to get some of that ingredients down in, to fall down in, and it's settling up here and all this is blending around in this area, what we will do with that, see how it fits right on there. When I have something like that that doesn't fall down in easily, I will lift the machine like this. Rotate it. Something stuck, I'll shake it. Rotate it. Rotate it. Okay. Rotate it. And the ingredients will blend evenly inside. So usually it's only on these two jars that it's required for manipulation. And if you get this model, it's really very light. We're talking about only maybe 3.5 pounds here altogether. With the ingredients, it'll add probably a pound. But it's very easy and very light, easy to handle. Again, when you want to remove the ingredients, remove the top, remove the blades. Now you usually have stuff on the blades, so you can wipe it like this, or even lick it off. And if you lick it off, these are very sharp, so you can cut yourself, so be careful. And then with this, you probably have to use a spatula if it's something like a sauce. Well, you will see us later when we make a cheesecake that where we use a spatula to get out the ingredients for both the fill and the topping. Okay, let's get started on some wonderful, delicious recipes. Okay, what we will need is this. We're going to make a garlic butter with a ribeye. I chop some of it a little bit finer and then some longer strips, and we will spread that on a plate. I'll rearrange it so you can see. But the first thing we're going to do is make a garlic butter sauce. Now what I did was I put the solid cool butter in here and I immersed it in a bowl of hot water. Hot enough to make my hand uncomfortable, but not hot enough to burn it, as long as I kept my hand in there for about 5 seconds. No burn? Okay. Won't cook the butter. We don't want to get the butter over about 105 degrees. Cow's body, the hottest part of it, cow's body temperature. Now remove the lid from this. Now making garlic butter is very simple. It doesn't take a lot of garlic. The less garlic, the better really. So we want just some very thin slices. Maybe 4 very, very tiny slices. Very, very tiny. See how thin those slices are? Now we want them thin so they will blend properly. Sometimes if you put a whole garlic clove in there, it will bounce around the blades and then you'll have a ball of garlic inside without having blended much garlic. So that was 4, and we'll make a 5th very thin slice here. And you will not believe how much garlic will permeate from this little bit of, just quite a bit of butter. So just place it on top of the blender like this, and again we put it on low. Increase the speed. Go higher. Higher again. That only takes about 10 seconds. So that's about what we did. Now, again, you undo the lid, the base, remove the blades and the washer together, and we just rinse those off. That is so strong. So now we'll take the plate and we will arrange the meat. We'll take the cut stuff and we'll put that in the center. Then we'll take the longer slices and we'll put those around like this. So it'll be almost like a sunburst, just to make it look good. Everybody likes nice presentation, especially with food. So that is what we will do. And you see how nice and fatty this is. This is a diet for fat, remember that. Okay, then we can just pour the garlic butter over, like that. And if you would like some peppers that we cut, put a little sweet peppers on them, or your hot peppers if you like. And maybe some onion. Sometimes these stick together, so just break them apart so you don't have big chunks all in one place. Doesn't that look pretty appetizing? And notice that it's very rich and red. When you cook meat, it turns brown or black, not very appetizing. When you cook anything, it changes the color to dull and very unattractive. But you see this, it's very, very beautiful. Okay, we're going to use this again. We are going to make a vinegar tomato sauce for some halibut. And here's cutting the halibut. You see I slice it in long slices, then I'll turn it sideways like this, and then I slice it into little cubes that will marinate easily. Okay. Then we'll move that aside, then we'll take a tomato and we slice it. If you put a whole tomato in a blender jar, it won't blend so easily. So I put it into slices and then put it inside the jar. And it will blend easily this way. Then we'll put some melted butter. It doesn't have to be melted as long as you have something that will turn pretty liquid. And usually if this butter were not liquid to begin with, what I would have done is I would have put the butter in first and then the tomato last, because you want the liquid to get into the blades first. Now what I'm going to do is slice some cheese, just thinly like this, so it will blend easily. This will just give it a little thickness, so it won't be so runny, the sauce won't be so runny. You can see I just tear those. And again, normally if the butter were not liquid, I'd be putting the butter and the cheese in there and then the tomato on top. Then we'll take just a little, about a teaspoon of vinegar only. That's a teaspoon. Now this vinegar is very, very potent, so it doesn't take much. And it can, vinegar can demineralize your body if you have too much. So it's always a wise idea to eat a small amount in any particular day. Okay, so here we go. Now we're going to slam this down so that everything gets down in the blender blades. Another thing you could do is add an egg to this, but we're going to add that to a mayonnaise recipe later. So here we turn it on. Now this we want to turn on a little higher. We won't start off on low speed. If we start off on low speed, the motor is going to work very hard and it will not blend well. So we're going to put it on low here but high here. We'll tilt it a little bit. Now what we will do is, now we have a sauce. We'll take the halibut and we're going to pour this into it in a bowl. And then we will marinate it. And then you can pull it out hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later and it's ready. It takes about a minimum of an hour for vinegar to marinate some fish. All right, here we have it. This is marinated now for about 2 hours. Okay, so we can take a plate like this and we can take a head of lettuce. Now, we're always told that head lettuce has no value. That is very untrue. It does not high in vitamin E and vitamin D like the other lettuces. However, it is the only food that we eat that has opiates in it. And the opiates feed the brain, help us with strength, help us get through metabolism, soreness of any kind. So my favorite lettuce is this lettuce. And there's not enough opiates in it to make you high and crazy or spaced out and tired, but just enough to feed the brain to give you good prostaglandin reactions in the brain. Then we can take this and we can spread this over. See all those little tomato flakes on top? All looks very nice. Now we can take any number of ingredients like onion. We can put a little onion on it if you like onion. We could take some herbs. Okay, we could add tarragon, which is very nice. We could add that to it. And you could either chop it. I don't like to chop so much. I like to just break, tear it, and spread it over the top. Smells so good. And when you tear it like that, it brings out the fragrance more. If you chop it for some reason, it doesn't have quite as much fragrance. I think it has to do with squeezing the oils, esters out a little bit as we do this. And there you have it. Isn't that a meal to enjoy? And see, who says that raw meats can look wonderful? And I call all meats, any flesh food, meat, whether it's fish, poultry, or red meat. So there we have our halibut. Okay, what we're going to do with this, we have bone marrow, and we can take a chopstick and we can push it through, or take your finger if it's big enough. That's the big end, so we want to push it from the small end through the big end. Take the bone marrow out. That bone marrow is full of excellent stem cells to help regenerate and have growth hormones in them. True human growth hormone once the body converts those stem cells. And then we will cut the lamb very thinly, slices. Again, you always saw. You don't pull, saw. If it gets down to the bottom and you have to pull a little bit, that's fine, but you don't want to pull right away. You want to cut, slice. If you push and pull, you dull your knives. And you see there's gristle wrapped around shanks all the time. If you slice into it and then pull at the bottom, you leave that gristle on the bone. Again, just slice it, and you get to the bottom, you tear it off, or just kind of like that, slice it off easily. Turn it upside down, do it again here, and again you're sawing, and you see how that remains, the gristle remains. Okay, give that to your dog if you have one, or a cat. They will love it. Okay, now let's prepare our plate. Let's use a little basil leaves, some basil leaves, to decorate the bottom. Doing a little petal flower arrangement. Then we put the meat on top. Now what you can do is, these are very soft and very oily when it's room temperature, and I like all my meat to be room temperature because it's much more flavorful. So the bone marrow is like butter when it's warm, and when it's cold it's like butter too, it hardens. So if we slice it very thinly, that's part of the fat for the meal. And again, like I said, it helps growth hormones, keeps you young, gets cells producing in your body quicker. And then what we're going to do is make a sauce to go with this. It will be kind of a mayonnaise sauce because we're going to use an egg in it. And then we will want to thicken it with cheese. So we have some butter in there. I melted the butter so it's easier to blend, but you do not have to melt it. You just put the egg in last, but we won't put the egg in last because the butter is melted. Now we can cut the cheese. Again, this helps thicken it. With the egg in there and the melted butter, it's going to be thin. So we use, as I talked about, thickeners. The thickeners are cheeses, nuts in sauces, in pies and cakes. Nuts you can make into a flour, and I will show you that later. Now, just to give this a little bit of a better flavor, I'm going to use a little bit of hot pepper here. Depending upon how hot you like it. I don't like it too hot, so that's going to be plenty for me. Now if you put the seeds in, it's going to be even hotter. So it's better not to have it too hot unless you can handle it and unless you like it. Let's throw just a little bit of onion, just to give a slight onion flavor to it. And again, knock it down into the blades, and then we'll put this on a medium. Now, I let it blend about 15 seconds that time because I wanted the cheese to thicken the sauce. You see, it's like a mayonnaise, a little thicker. Now, if I weren't on camera, I'd be licking this, but these are very sharp. You don't want to stab your mouth when you do it, or your tongue. And then you just pour this on top. And there you go. Some people, if you go into a restaurant, will put the sauce on the side rather than on the top. I like it on top. Then we can take some more of the pepper, but this is sweet pepper, and just put that on top. And there you have another wonderful meal. This is lamb with bone marrow from the lamb shank. Pretty special. So we have a big slice of chuck here, as you can see. We're going to cut it lengthwise. So you cut it thinly like this, and then you put it in a clump like this, and you'll be cutting it like this. This is all in strips, all in strips. I'm going to put it in a food processor to grind it. If we kept this in big chunk, it would build up and wouldn't grind properly. So we will spread this all over evenly throughout. And even this may build up on top a little bit and not grind in the upper regions of the food processor. Put a lid on, fasten that tightly. Now the way to grind this is to do it slowly. If we have it all at once, it's going to build up, like I said, all on top, and the chunks are going to stay on top and the bottom will mince. But we want to grind it, we don't want to mince it. So we're going to pulsate. Pulsate. Now, if your lid comes off, it's going to turn off the machine. Now, at this stage, you can see it's partially ground. Some of it is still a little stringy, but I want to put some sauce in. You have to be careful when you have the blades, they have to fit a particular way right down on the shaft. Now what we're going to do is, remember all the sauces we made? We have a little garlic butter, we have a little of everything. So we'll take a little bit of this sauce and put it in here. What we're making in this is like a luncheon meat sauce with lots of different flavors. And we'll also put some garlic butter in here. So this will taste like a nicely spiced luncheon meat, round. Again, it's good to pulsate it. Now it's pretty even, it's starting to clump. So what I'm going to do is turn it on full blast and turn the whole machine, lifting it with both hands. And you can see it gyrating in there a little bit. And as I turn it, it moves it around. So what we have is a minced meat. We can use some lettuce as a base. A little bit of lettuce. Doesn't have to be perfect. I like the stalk, nice and crunchy. And you see me putting vegetation with the meat. It's not a great thing as long as you don't have more than 2 tablespoons of vegetables with a raw meat meal. When you're having cooked meat, it's okay because it's over acidic, and a good salad, raw salad, is good with that. But when you're eating raw meat, you need all that putrefactive bacteria that is acidic, and that's what we have, putrefactive bacteria. Sounds like a bad word, but that's just how they define the bacteria that breaks down animal products in any body, any animal that eats meats. And that is predominantly what we have is putrefactive bacteria. We have very little bacteria to break down cellulose, so we are not vegetarian. In the mouth we're full of, again, putrefactive bacteria to break down animal matter. So here we have this nice pate here. We can scoop this out, put this on the plate. If you want to, you could even put it in a leaf of lettuce and eat it out of a leaf of lettuce. Let me show you how I would do that. Yes, I eat off my fingers and I love it. So what you can do is just take some of this and make a sandwich of it. It has all that sauce and flavor. So there is your sandwich, and you just eat it like that. If you want to decorate this a little more also, you can always take some peppers. You can always take any kind of an herb that you like, mint if you want a little mint on it. You can just tear up some mint or even some oregano leaves, basil leaves, whatever you like. And then tarragon, you can have a little bit tarragon on top of that. And then it tastes more like luncheon meats, the more spices, and you know how spicy luncheon meats are. So, there we have it. We have a wonderful, wonderful dish. Now, who said raw food can't look beautiful? It's the most beautiful food there is. It doesn't lose color, and it's radiant. So what we do is we peel the shell away, like this. And then when we get down to the lower one here, just pull, like that. And then what we will do is we will cut it small pieces like this. I don't wash it, I don't worry about those things. It's been in the shell. And then we take these and we put them in a bowl. So we will juice some lemons. I like this glass juicer. It has these little mounds to catch the seeds and pulp. I like a little bit of pulp because it has bioflavonoids in it. It allows the vitamin C to be used properly. And bioflavonoids are high in B vitamins. So what I do is I slice, and I'm sure everybody knows how a juicer works. Hand juicer. Glass I like because we're not going to get the phthalates from plastic in there. And the way I do it, I cup my hand like this, and I can get a lot more force that way. If you have larger lemons, what I will do is push on the side, turn it, push on the side. These fit exactly on the top of this juicer, so they're perfect size for this juicer to juice easily. So we'll juice all of those, and then what we do is pour the juice into the shrimp slices, and we fit it just to the top. And we'll put that in the refrigerator, leave it out. If you like chilled, then put it in the refrigerator. If you don't like chilled, then it will marinate much quicker outside of the refrigerator. And it will stay a little bit lower than room temperature. So we'll let that marinate for about 2 hours. And it takes shrimp about 2 hours to marinate to where the texture is perfect. So we'll go do that. We'll put this in over here and let it marinate. Okay, here it is 2 hours later. So here you can see it's white. Now you don't want a lot of lemon like vinegar, the lemon will break down minerals in the body. So what we want to do is squeeze the excess lemon out of it. Like this. We'll squeeze and then put it on the lettuce. Squeeze. Put it on the lettuce. Now some people like to marinate theirs for 24 hours. Too much lemon in it. And it can break down the enamel on the teeth and cause mineral imbalances. And there we have. Now doesn't that look delicious even before we put anything with it? Now we're going to make a sauce to go on top. So we'll take the tomato, take a little bit of the lemon juice first. Just like 2 tablespoons of the lemon juice, barely that. And then we will slice the tomato as we did with the other recipe. Remember, when they're sliced in smaller pieces, it's easier to blend. And don't slice yourself. Again, to just thicken it a little bit, we will use a tiny amount of cheese. And of course, butter and lemon is wonderful together. I'm sure many people have had lemon and butter for their fish, especially lobster. We're going to have it with this shrimp. Now you can marinate lobster the same way you do shrimp, and it will have the same texture as if it were cooked. So we'll take the blender blades, and again, always put your washer on first so that you can see where it goes. Put the blender blades on top. Now a lot of people will put onion, a little bit of onion in there, so I forgot to put the onion, so we'll put a little bit of onion in there. And then this on top. Shake it down there a little bit. Get the lemon and the butter. And then now we'll put it on a lower speed. We have it on low over here, and we'll go over to about medium. Now, that's a little thin. Now what I want to do, I wanted to get those flavors mixed. Now I'm going to use some dill in this. So we will break some dill, mainly the leaves, put the stalks in, break the little leaves off. Depending upon how dillish you like it. I like a lot of dill when I'm having it. So we'll use about 4 sprigs or stalks of sprigs, 4 stalks of sprigs. And we'll put the blender blades on top. Now again, make sure that if you're going to not remove the washer and put it on separately, that everything that the washer is down firmly to that base of the blades, and then screw it on. Now you can hear it and feel it. Now I can tell the washer hasn't fallen down inside. Again, I knock the ingredients down into the blades, and then we'll turn it on a medium high. Now I don't want to blend it too long because there's a lot of electromagnetic field in here and that can disrupt cellular structure. But I want because we're not cooking it, so we don't get to cook the esters out of the dill, so we're going to have to blend it fast and hard. So we'll put it on high, high. Okay, now you can see it turns slightly greenish. Now we'll take the shrimp and pour the shrimp cocktail sauce over that. And, or, you know, you could always use those fine little forks and then dip it in. You could have a separate bowl for your shrimp cocktail sauce. And there you have it. Of course, if you want to decorate it, you can always add some color, like with the peppers, the sweet peppers, or hot peppers if you like. You could always take a little bit of cheese and put that on top too, if you like, a little grated cheese. There we go. And there's your shrimp. I think I'm going to stop and I'm going to eat this and everybody continue working. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to make a ginger sauce with chicken. Now this is a chicken breast, and you see how it's raw, pink, kind of yellowish. I guess they had some corn. And what we're going to do is we're going to dice some tomato. Good slicing knife is the thing to use for tomatoes. It cuts it with and leaves all of the juice within it. We're going to try to save as much juice as we can. Again, we're going to cut this, slice this way, because we want little cubes. Turn it again this way. Slice it this way. See, if you're not pushing on it, most of the juices are going to stay in the slices. If you're pushing on it, then the juice will leave the tomato. So we kept most of the juice in there. Slice again, saw gently down, turn it, and then slice it this way. If you have a good serrated knife like these Cutco knives or ceramic knives, you can cut very easily into the skin as long as you saw, so you're not pushing the juice out. Now we'll just put it over here on the plate, and then we'll slice the chicken. And we've lost some of that juice here, but I'm going to mix it in the chicken as we slice it. Now I've got a little bit of some gristle over here on top of the bone. We've got a part of a wishbone here. So I'm going to cut that, I'll remove that, discard it. And then what I like to do is we slice this in thin strips, elongated strips again, saw, now we want to cut this into smaller cubes. So we turn it, slice, slice, slice. See? Now I've got a good knife here. This is a butcher knife. It's made to cut meat. Now I like to leave the gristle in because your hydrochloric acid will digest some of the gristle. And the gristle's good for your tendons and your cartilage. And you may have to slice it hard. Now we will marinate this in the lemon and a little ginger. But we'll put the main ginger. Here we go. We'll put this in here. That. So we pour the lemon juice into it, just to cover it. We stir it around. Some people marinate for 20 minutes. I like my chicken to marinate, if I'm going to have it marinated, for about an hour to 2 hours, hour and a half. Okay, I'm back with the marination. You see the difference in the color. It looks just like cooked chicken. Impressive, huh? Okay, now we're going to make a dish with this. We need to pour off the lemon. So we're going to take the same lemon dish and we're going to pour off the excess lemon. Push it. Squeeze it out. Look. Squeeze. Squeeze, squeeze. Now what we'll do is take some tomato. We'll put the tomato in there a little bit at a time. We're going to grate some ginger. And what we have is a ginger root. I don't peel it. I like that. We don't digest it, even though it has a peel. But I like a little bit of that B vitamins that are in it. Some will come, sometimes, be digested. And I use the very fine side of the grater to do this. And ginger is very strong, so it doesn't take very much. A good teaspoon of ginger will flavor this incredibly. And I will pull that in and off here. Very, very fine, liquidish. And that will permeate it a lot more. So far that's been the most work of all, was grating that. Okay, we're going to stir this. Now I like a wooden spoon. I just don't like the taste of metal. So we're just going to mix this around. Some people like, onion in here, and we can put some onion. You could even use just a tiny bit of vinegar, but that just for people who like very strong flavors. The ginger flavor in here will be plenty, along with this. The tomato, we're going to put some tomato in there again, and we can put some more pepper in there, a little bit. That is sweet pepper, not hot pepper. You could use hot pepper if you like. Some people like spicy hot chicken. Sometimes you could even take some of the ginger root and slice it very thinly like this. Put a little shavings for people who like very spicy, strong stuff. So you see how thin, it's almost paper thin. Okay, so we will put it on a plate. Chicken, again, we could use basil leaves to decorate the bottom. Now again, you don't have to eat these vegetables. Probably not the best thing to do is eat a lot of vegetables, because it will neutralize your hydrochloric acid and your other acids and your digestive bacteria, your acidic bacteria that digests meats. So it's a good idea, as I said earlier, not to put any more than 2 tablespoons per meal. That means 2 tablespoons per person. So here we have the chicken. And we have some peppers with it, sweet peppers. Take the ginger, Let me chop it so we can spread it around a little bit. Again, these are going to be hot. So if you like hot ginger, it's good. If you don't, then I wouldn't put these on the chopped ginger on. Some people like that bite, so we'll sprinkle it around a little bit there. Now, you can always add some grated cheese if you like. Spread a little onion on if you like. And there you have it. Another delicious meal. And this is raw chicken. Raw chicken. Smells good. It is good. Cheesecake is very easy to make, and I will show you how now. We need a food processor to do it, and the only thing that takes a little time is to pit the dates. Use a paring knife, open it, remove the pit, the stone they're called, and then after that just cut them up into little smaller chunks. Don't cut yourself, so that they'll grind in the more evenly in the food processor. Instead of using sugar, of course we're using, and if they have a calyx on it like this, a little hard thing, then you remove that. You don't want that in there. That'll be a surprise for your teeth if you try to bite into that. There's another calyx on there, so break it off. Sometimes the dates are a little softer. I noticed this one that I pitted for you is a little softer, but it still cuts nicely if you have a sharp knife. Now what we do is we put this in the food processor after we do some nuts. Now we have walnuts here. You could do it with pecans if you prefer pecans. Put about a cup of nuts in there, and we want to just break them up a little bit. So what we'll do is do this. We'll do the pulsation again. And I got the large chunks. You see it is smaller. Some of them are big, but they're going to get reduced to smaller chunks still. I'm going to put the dates in here. And you can use a clump of butter or some melted butter. And use about a tablespoon. It helps keep it all together. Okay, now this is much heavier. This is probably, you're looking at 7 pounds with the ingredients in there. So you just have to use a little bit more force when you're handling the food processor by turning it like I do. Okay, now what we're going to do is grab a pie plate, put a little butter in here. So I'll take a piece of butter, put it in there, and I will rub it around. So that it doesn't stick, the ingredients won't stick to the pie plate. I like a lot of butter, so it doesn't matter. I like the taste of butter, especially in cheesecake. So See, that's pretty well coated all along the sides. Okay, then what we do is dump crust into the pie plate, and we're going to press it down into the pie plate. Now, if you're making a pie instead of a cheesecake, you'll push this up around the sides too. But a cheesecake usually just has a thick crust on the bottom, so that's all we're going to do here. And if you're pressing it and you want to make it, all you do is just press it like this, all up, and keep bringing it up the sides for a pie. Again, this is a cheesecake, so we'll just have a bottom. And some people like it thinner and some people like it thicker. If you like it thicker, then only use about half a cup of nuts instead of a whole cup. Make sure it's pressed compact so it's nice and tight. Okay, there's our crust. You see how thick it is? It's probably about about 3/8 of an inch, or not quite, maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. Makes a nice crust. Now, right now it's very wet, but when we refrigerate it, it will harden. Now we're going to make the fill, and that is we're going to use butter, almost a cup of butter. And we're going to use an egg. We've got a big egg here. You know, cheesecake has egg in it. Make it nice and rich and delicious. And then cheese. So we're going to slice the cheese so it will blend easily. Now this cheese has been out of the refrigerator for about 7 hours. So it's room temperature, so it'll blend very easily. Doesn't blend easily, it's a lot of work. If it's very soft like this is in room temperature, it will blend easily and the job is quick. Remember, if it's cold, it will cause the butter to harden. And if the butter is hard, it won't blend properly. Now we're going to put a little honey in this. I'll use about a tablespoon. Now the dates in the crust is where it's going to have most of its sweetness. And then we're going to have a blueberry topping, and we'll have a lot of sweetness in that, so we don't have to get carried away in the fill. We need the fill to taste like a cheesecake and not necessarily a sweet dish. So now I'll put the blender blades on top. Again, the washer on first, and the blades inside and on top of the washer. Screw this on. Now it's pretty full, so I don't really have to shake down too much. And we have the blender again. Blender will go on. Now we want to do this fast speed from the beginning, so we go on high here and high here. See hear how hard that motor is working? If you have it on low, you'll burn it up and it'll stink. You'll burn your motor inside. One thing you could do is while this is blending, I'm going to blend a little bit more because it's not mixed evenly enough. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator so this will harden a little bit more. So what I did was I stuck that in the freezer so that the crust will firm. There's a little bit of butter in it, and the butter will firm it, and of course chilling will harden anything. And we don't want to leave it in there long enough to freeze, only about 10 minutes as we make this. So again, I'm going to turn it on high. Now, if that happens, if it lifts off while you're picking it up, then you have to turn it off. If you try to engage it while it's already running, you will strip the gears and cause a lot of problems. So again, tilt it to the side. For cheesecake, I blended 45 to 60 seconds for the fill. Okay, now I will get the crust out of the refrigerator, out of the freezer, and we'll pour this into it. All right, you can see it's firmed. It's not soft as it was. We'll pour the fill in. See how nice it just pours into there? Now we're going to stick this in the freezer. This will be in the freezer about 20 minutes, maybe less, and it will firm. Okay, this is the topping for the cheesecake. Now we have some blueberries. Clean them in good water just in case they grow up near a farm, factory area or something like that. Now this is very thick cream. It's going to be like whipping cream. Now, anything that's mixed with berries, it's going to harden. The pectin in the berries will cause it to firm like gelatin. So what we have to do is, as soon as we get this prepared to blend, and I'll just use a little bit of honey. You don't need much honey because the blueberries are already sweet. But the honey will help the cream to digest. Now, if I don't get the pie plate here ready now, with the ingredients hardened from the freezer, and I take the time to go over and get it out of the freezer, this will already be too hard to pour in to the pie, to the cake dish. So I'm going to go get the cake, cheesecake. See here? 20 minutes, firm, hard. Remember how liquid that was? Now we're going to blend the berries in the cream. So we're going to have berry whipped cream. I'm going to do it on slow, because if I do it fast, I'll do it on slow medium. If I do it fast, it's going to whip hard too quickly before enough berries and the honey gets mixed. about 30 seconds. Only do it longer than that and it might turn into butter. Now right now it's still creamy. And I will pour it in to the pie plate. In a few minutes, this will harden. Now I'm going to put this in the freezer again and then let it sit for about 3 minutes. And here it is. That's only 3 minutes, folks, and you see it's solid. Pretty good. And it will taste delicious. Now we can always take some blueberries and put them on the top. You can make a happy face or do whatever you want. I'm just throwing them around. Now we're going to do the custard, which uses anywhere from 1/3. Since we're going to make 2-cup custard, we'll use about half of this medium papaya. Just slice it. We will remove the stones, the seeds, and they're like spread out. It's kind of like a flower. So you put the spoon in at that angle and move it. I'm using a bone spoon here because I've got an end which I can also use to go in there and move it out, move those seeds out easily without disturbing the fruit. You could use a paring knife or a peeler, would also have the same shape. I just like my bone spoon. Again, I use metal as little as possible. Now you scoop the papaya into the jar. Usually a papaya have a little bit more meat than that, so I'm going to have to use more of the papaya because there won't be enough. And again, you can see I'm scooping it out here. Let me move this aside so you can see how easy it is to just scoop those off from the side when you have a shape like that. If you were to leave these seeds in your custard, it would make them very hot. These seeds are very spicy. So even if you leave one in, it's going to alter the taste, and it won't taste like normal custard. It will taste like hot, spicy something. Sweet and hot and spicy. And you can see I just pushed it to the bottom there. Now we'll scoop this into the jar. That's just about right. Now we'll put some butter, and it should be about 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter for 2 batches. That means about 1.5 tablespoons per serving. And then we'll put 2 eggs in. Put one of these small ones. And then a fat one. And sometimes the butter keeps the egg from going down, so I'm just going to push it aside. So now the egg moves down there, and it will give me room to put honey. So we put anywhere from 1 to 2 tablespoons of honey in this. The more ripe the papaya, of course, the sweeter the papaya is going to be, so less honey. Or if you just want a lot of extra digestive enzymes from the honey, this is unheated honey. There you have it. Now we will blend it. Again, make sure the washer is against here, or you put the washer on first. See the washer all the way around, and push and turn. Now, this will harden in about 3 minutes, just like the berries did in the cream. Now this is going to be firm, so we want to put it in a bowl right away. As soon as we, like I say, if you don't pour it out of this jar right away, it will harden quickly. And then you'll have to spoon it out of the jar and be all lumpy. So I'm going to put it on a higher speed, low, high. Now, you can see how dark it is up here, so it's not blending as nicely as I would like it. So I stop and shake it. Okay. Now, you see the butter in here is a little clumpy. There was a little coldness in it. Now we're going to keep blending it. Okay, it's pretty even now. So we're going to have to pour it quickly. You can see it's already firming. Okay, now I'm just going to let this sit for 3 minutes and you'll see how thick and hard it gets. We'll shake it so it evens out before it hardens. Now you see this, how firm it is? Now watch. See, that has to be dipped out. Firm just like a cooked custard. Boy, is that delicious. Okay, when you choose a coconut, you want to see if there's any, see we've got a little dark spot here, may have a little mold in there, maybe a little off-water spot here, also have some mold in it. We try to find ones with the least possible spots on them. And then what we will do is try to crack it like an egg, like a hard-boiled egg. You don't want to crack it too fast, you want to break the shell around. Hopefully it'll pull away from the meat. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does. But it does loosen it as we beat it like this. And a ball peen hammer is a pretty good hammer for this. Now when this cracks, there's water inside, so I've got to get it over a bowl. There we go, now we crack. So you have to get it over the bowl quickly. So just let the water run out. Okay, then we'll go back to cracking. And we want to get even cracks all over it so they're just not in half of it or part of it. The larger the pieces, the harder it is to remove the meat from the shell. Okay, now so you can see how many places it's cracked all around. So, gloves, make sure you have leather gloves so you don't stab yourself. You've got coconut oil all over these gloves and oyster juice, because that's what I've used these gloves for. So, now what you want to do is get oyster knife that's curved like this. You see at the end, and it gets under between the shell and the meat, and see how easily it pries out. So you have to do that. If you've got a large piece like this, break off what you can. Again, underneath, pry it up. Got a nice chunk there. Now you can always rinse it because this gets some of the crust on it, so we can put it in the water there and that'll clean it. See, there's some dirt here. Not going to hurt you, but if you don't want the dirt from the crust, from the shell. Again, you pry it. Work it under. That's what is so great about this curved oyster knife for doing this. Work it up as you work it in there. Move it around, work it up. There we go again. See how nicely that came out. This one's a little bit tighter to the shell, but again, I pried it loose. Here, dig in to the side again, pry it. You can move the blade down in there, pry it, so you've got a nice large chunk. Do it again here. Now I suggest that you do about 10 to 15 coconuts. Take, your day off Saturday or Sunday, because this coconut cream will last in a refrigerator about 6 weeks or more. So if you do a lot on one day every 6 weeks, then you won't have to make it frequently. Just takes putting aside one day about every 3 weeks to do this. But you have to do enough of them to last that long. And each coconut, if you do it correctly, will give you at least 8 ounces of coconut cream. Now most people will say, wait a minute, I've never gotten that. That's because they don't do it correctly. You've got to make sure your room in which you're juicing when we get to that state is 80 degrees. If it isn't, the coconut cream stays in the fiber of the coconut and doesn't release. So, if it's like, say, down 72 degrees in your house, when you're juicing, you'll be lucky if you get 3 ounces per coconut. If you get it up to 80 degrees, you're going to have a good 8 ounces or more. And there are other things that I will show you that we're going to do with the coconut. Now you can remove the gloves, and then what we will do is we have to cut it up in chunks. So here I've rinsed them. As you can see, I'm rinsing the pieces in the coconut water. Now if there were some moldy spots on here, I would have to cut off the moldy spots with, like here we have a little discoloration under the skin, so that's a moldy spot. That will turn the coconut cream very sour quickly. Now what we want to do is cut small chunks off of this, because this is going to go into, this is probably the most time consuming right here, is cutting up a whole coconut like this into little bitty sections. You can also cut it like this. Little chunks. And there's about 2 1/3 coconuts so far. And we finished this one. We'll have more. Okay, the next stage in this coconut cream making process is we're going to take these chunks of coconut and we're going to make them into a grated coconut. Make sure that this is down before you do anything. I didn't do that, so now, okay. And we'll put as much, and if you see one that has mold spot, definitely eliminate it, because it will make the coconut cream go a little sour, and it'll just be more detoxifying. And I wouldn't put any more than about halfway into the halfway filled. And the best thing to do is pulsate it, not to grind it consistently, just to get it moving. Now we can turn it on and leave it on until it grinds. Okay. See how this is grated now? It's going to go through the juicer much easier this way. It won't be so hard. And it won't be so taxing on your gears in your juicer, because you can easily overwork your gears in a juicer when you're cutting coconut or grinding it, juicing it. Again, I found another piece. You see it has some mold on it. Again, we will pulsate first. Again. You have to be very careful with these blades because they are very sharp and they will cut. The next step is we take the grated coconut and we put it in the juicer. Down. Now this takes a little bit of energy. Push that down in there, and if you twist, it really helps. Twist, 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 twist. Now the pulp will come out the end, and the cream will come out in the center of this particular kind of juicer. Now, I like this juicer the best. It has 2 gears in it. They are magnetic stainless steel, and you don't have to worry about the metal getting into the coconut cream, and definitely don't have to worry about plastic. I don't like the augers that are plastic, because then you get phthalates and other plastic chemicals into your coconut cream. Now it's about 80 degrees in this room, 79, 80 degrees, perfect temperature. So we're going to see what we get out of these 3 coconuts. And we threw very little, probably about half a cup of the coconut we lost from the mold parts. Now sometimes the machine will jam. If that happens, you're going to have to unscrew this. Of course, it wouldn't be running like that, it will be stopped. You need to undo this and maybe unscrew these and let the pulp run out. And it will run out of here if it gets caught. Then we reinsert this. Well, with your finger, clean out any coconut pulp that's sitting in there. And then this has only happened to me one time. And you just finger tight. Never put these any more than finger tight. If you do, it will jam and even crack the machine. Crack it in many places. It won't hurt the machine, but then you have a cracked looking machine. So always make sure that when you do each bout that your stick, now they have a plastic one, I don't like plastic, so I use the wooden plunger. And make sure that you hear the gears touching the wood before you add the next batch to juice. Again, twist, down and twist, down and twist, twist. Now, this is obviously too tight, so I'm going to have to loosen it. There we go. Now it's moving easier. Brush the coconut in the tray down into there so you can move it. Moving better. Now it's moving too fast, so I'm going to tighten it a little bit more. It'll get drier that way. You get more coconut cream from the coconut itself. Now the coconut pulp is piling up here, so I pull it to the side. You feel it's getting warm. It's about probably 85 degrees, and that's fine. I don't like the juicer where the pulp is coming out to get hotter than about 96 degrees, 100 degrees at the very most. And it will be hotter when it comes out this end than it will here. And this is the crucial point of heat. See, if you twist like this, you don't have to push as hard. If you just push and push, you're going to wear yourself out. So just twist and push a little bit. Twist, push, twist. See how easily that goes through. Now, these were medium-sized coconuts. They weren't small, and they certainly weren't large. You can find coconuts that are twice that size. So these should give about 8 ounces each. Coconut cream. And sometimes I won't fill the shaft all the way up to the top. I'll fill it to about here, so it doesn't get compressed and packed in the shaft itself. Now, there's 3 coconuts. The pulp is filled up this bowl here. And we look at the measuring cup here, and what we have is, we have 3 cups. Just what I wanted for 3 coconuts. However, we can still get more out of this, so we can run the pulp through one or two more times. We just have to make sure it doesn't get too hot. So what we do is we pour that into there. And again, we press down. Press and twist. You see, there's still juice coming out of this. Oh, and if it's warm like it is in this room, you will get more and more juice. Now I'm going to tighten it a little bit so it gets even drier. Twist, turn, twist, turn. I'm going to tighten it all the way. You can always turn this off and just give the motor a relaxing. Now I do this not from the side. I'm doing this from the side to show you how it works. But when I'm doing the juicing myself, I want the motor, now let me show you. I'm going to show you with a meter, a gauge, okay, how high the EMF field is on this machine. See how high that is? See how far away you have to be from this machine? See, if I'm standing at the front of it, that's the best place to be. If you're here, see how much energy comes from the back side. So what I do is when I'm juicing, I juice this way. I juice with it away from me, and I juice like this. So the motor's back here, and as you can see, now, where I'm standing, there's almost no electromagnetic field. And here, a lot. Back here on me, almost none. So that's where I want to be. Now this is a Green Star juicer, the Green Star Gold. What's called a Green Power Gold, but it's all from the same line, the same mechanism, the 2-gear. The newest, the Green Star Elite, is better than any of these. That's the one I recommend you get. Now this pulp is getting about probably 95 degrees. And that's just about as hot as I want it to get. Since I have an empty jar here, you can see now this is almost through, and it's gone from this bowl to this bowl as far as consistency and amount of pulp. So we'll put this under here. Okay, now this is pretty dry. Here, very dry. I could probably put it through one more time, but it's getting a little warm. I'd have to let this cool down to do that. And I can do that while I'm putting this in jars. Now we have almost 4 cups here. So we almost have a quart out of 3 coconuts. That's exactly what I was expecting when your room is warm and the coconut pulp is warm enough. If the pulp is cold, even though the room is hot, it still will not juice properly. You can see here, 4 cups is here. So we almost have 4 cups of coconut cream. Now there's some ways you can preserve it. You could put a little lime juice in it. Lime juice is a bacterial inhibitor. Lemon juice is a bacterial encourager. That's why it's good to marinate foods with lemon and preserve them with lime. However, I don't really like inhibiting bacterial growth in anything because 99% of digestion, at least 90% of digestion, is bacterial, and only about 10% or less is enzymatic and digestive juices. The digestive juices break down larger clumps of food into a liquid form or a smaller pulp form so that the bacteria can infiltrate the food and eat it. Now, the excrement and the secretions from the bacteria is our food. That's how it works. So we want bacteria. The medical profession has it all wrong. They're entirely motivated by the pharmaceutical industry, and the pharmaceutical industry's entire intent is to make money. So if you're not taking medication, if you're well, you're not taking medication, they don't profit. So all of their therapies, their medications are all geared not to get you well, but to continue on medication. Just like cigarette addiction, coffee addiction, they want you drug addicted. So bacteria is your main focus in life. Bacteria, you have one human gene to every 150 bacterial genes in your digestive tract. 150 times what your human digestive system has of its own juice. So it's important. Bacteria is all important. The pharmaceutical industry, the medical profession has it backward. They want you sick. We need bacteria. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to jar this so it preserves longer. You can see there's some air bubbles in there. You can just shake it as you pour it, and that'll move the air bubbles out of there. And put it almost to the top. When you're doing vegetable juice, you do want to put it all the way to the top. Now this won't make quite, because these are actually 9 ounces rather than 8 ounces. So we're going to be just short of 4 full cups, because like I said, this is more than 8 ounces each one. Okay, so here we've got 3 ounces of, we've got 9 ounces in each of these, and this one will probably fill, a little bit more than halfway. Okay, now what we can do is we can juice some more. We'll take this, put this here, and then we'll put a lid on these and push this down, less air, preserve a little longer. Again, push down as you're tightening it, less air. These are 2-piece lids, and there we go. So we have them jarred and ready for the refrigerator. Now as these get cold, they will become hardened, so you have to scoop it out. It becomes very hard, just like cold butter does. Now we'll just put the lid on here lightly until we juice some more. So what we'll do is run this pulp through one more time, as we were going to do. The tightness, because it's coming through very freely and easily, so I want to dry it even more. I want to make sure it's pressed tighter so I get more cream out of it. And everything is cooled. This is cooled, everything is cooled. So it's not going to cook anything. It's not going to get it beyond 100 degrees or 98 degrees. I don't like coconut cream to get over 100 degrees. And when you're doing this one day, every 5 to 6 weeks, take your time and get as much as you can out of it. As you see me doing here. If I can get another half a cup out of here, that's a whole day, because that's what I eat. It's anywhere from 4 to 6 tablespoons a day. I don't recommend everybody have that much, because that's a lot of detoxification. Some people I only recommend maybe 4 tablespoons daily of coconut cream, but it's one of the most cleansing of all of the fats that we have. And it's not oil, it's only about 7–8% oil. And oils cause unruly detoxification. So this has the normal 7–8% oil. The rest is water-soluble fats. Most people don't know that there are water-soluble fats. But most fats in nature are water-soluble. It's getting warm again, but not hot. So let's see what have we've got just from this one more pass through. Put this under there so it doesn't drip all over the table. Okay. Now, out of that, we passed about 2/3 of it through, and we got about 2.5 more ounces, almost 3 ounces. So if I want to fill this, then I can run this through again. But you get the idea, and then just put a lid on this, and then in the refrigerator they go. Terrific. And it tastes good. Okay, what we do is sometimes there's a little hardness on here at the bottom of the celery. We're going to make vegetable juice. We're going to do. I don't mind the dirt. It's probiotics. All animals eat dirt, and it's part of nature, and it is a healthy thing. If I find, let's say, a damaged area like this, I will cut it out, because it can make the juice ferment quickly. And then what we'll do is just break the celery off and put it into a bowl. This. Just so it's enough to go into the shaft of the juicer. Alright, so we prep these. Then with the carrots, I like to cut the ends off. These, where the stem was, the stalks, if you juice this, it causes a lot of bitterness. Not that it's a bad thing. That bitterness is something not very enjoyable. Some people like it, most people don't. So I cut them. Sometimes it can be even hot and very gross tasting. Anyway, what we'll do is cut the ends off of all of them so we don't have that bitter taste. Okay, now you see the dirt all over these beets. I leave it if they're organic. If they're not organic, I wash everything. But everything we have today is organic. The carrots, the celery, the parsley, the cilantro, the beets. The cucumber, don't know. I don't trust them very much. The zucchini, I'll show you how to tell whether they're organic or not. Now, I leave the dirt on these. Everything I do not wash. Now, these have to be small enough to go in that chute. So I will cut the beets in half. Now, beets are excellent for increasing hydrochloric acid in the system. They have the nutrients to help the body, the stomach, build hydrochloric acid to make food small. Now this one I'm cut into 3 pieces instead of 2 to make sure it goes through there. The centerpiece still may be a little fat, so I will chop that even more. So that's ready to go. We'll put those in this jar, this bowl. Put those in this bowl. Now the way to tell whether either an apple or a pear, cucumber, zucchini is truly organic or not is you take a non-serrated knife, like a paring knife, and you scrape it over the skin. Now you see you have a wax here. There's a wax on the blade. Now take that off into your finger. If that dissolves, it's truly organic, and you see it didn't dissolve. So it's a synthetic wax. This is a petroleum wax on here, and they're lying. and taking our money and making us pay a lot of money for it. So what we have to do is we have to peel this because this is not an organic cucumber. Now I have a bruised spot on this cucumber, which I will remove. See the bruise here? That'll cause it to ferment faster. And here's a little bruise here, a little brown coloring. If it were dirt, it wouldn't bother me, but this is bruising. And that will cause the juice to become like vinegar. And I don't want vinegar juice. I will put juice in vinegar sometimes, but I don't want the vegetables to turn into vinegar. Now I have to make this so it will fit through the slot. So I'm going to section this into fourths. There. A little red because of the beet juice. It's okay, colorful. So there we go. Now we're ready to juice the cucumber. Put that in over here, out of the way, in the jar. Bowl, and we're going to check the zucchini. Now is the zucchini truly organic? We don't even have any wax on this, so it's probably organic. So I don't have to peel it. I can just slice it into fourths, make sure it goes to the spout. And that's easy. Okay, this is preparing the green leafies. What I do is I cut the very ends off because they've been pulled away from the root and they get a little browned, and they can also cause the juice to become vinegarish. So I'm just cutting off the very little of the ends because I want those nutrients in the stalks as much as possible. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to put the leafies in, mixed in with the other solid foods. The cucumber and the zucchini will have a tendency to get mushy. The greens have a tendency to get very tight and dry. So we have to mix those things in between the cucumber and the carrots and the celery. So, and we don't want it to get too mushy. So we have to regulate everything. I like to put a carrot through first. And of course, if the carrots are very fat, you're going to have to cut them so they fit in. Now the carrots take more pressure. The fatter they are, the more force you have to apply. Okay, now I've got enough carrot running through there. Now what I do is I'll take a little bit of the parsley, and a little bit of the cilantro, and I put them stalk first. Watch what happens when you put them stalk first. They disappear without any effort. If I put them in leaf first, watch what happens. They get stuck. I have to push down, and I have to push down, and I have to push down. So, always from the top. Again, we will vacillate on the ingredients that we put into the juice. Just alternate everything. Now it's time for a piece of cucumber. Now here it's getting mushy in there. So I'm going to put some green in, which will allow it to get drier. And see, it just disappears. Put a carrot or two in. Now carrots and the celery we have most of, so of course we're going to put probably 2 carrots at a time. And I've got a bunch of celery stalks here, so I'll put that in all at once. And if it gets a little tight, remember, twist and push. Now it's time for more greens. And what I'm doing is putting 2 bunches of parsley and 2 bunches of cilantro. You see it just disappeared. Pretty wonderful. Makes it very easy. And again, we'll put some more. I'll put a little zucchini here, and that will make it mushy too. Let's put this in. Sometimes I will do that. I'll put the pointed end in just to flatten it a bit. Then I turn it upside down. It's easier to push. So we'll go back to a few carrots. And you can juice, like I said in my recipe book, you can juice for 3, 4, even 5 days sometimes. I don't like to keep juice for more than 4 days normally. Sometimes the juice will be so good that it will last 5 days. Sometimes I want some fermented juice just for detoxification purposes. For all that those nasty cooked vegetables my mother made me eat. Help detoxify that stuff. Because it's the vegetable oils that cause hardening of the arteries and the heart. Medical profession is lying to us again. All the tribes who only eat meats and even cooked do not have any heart disease nor arteriosclerosis. The people who have heart disease and arteriosclerosis are the people who eat vegetable oils, humans who eat vegetable oils. Because we're not meant to eat vegetable oils. In the human system, we have a body temperature about 98.6 and lower. Herbivores have 102 to 105. So they have a higher body temperature to keep those fluids, those fats, those oils from crystallizing easily. In us, if we make those oils into parts of a cell, they have a tendency to dehydrate at lower temperatures, even though we're only talking about 5, 6, 7 degrees. The vegetable oils will crystallize and turn into crystals. And that causes hardening of the arteries and heart and a lot of problems throughout the system. On top of that, if you hydrogenate the vegetable oils, you basically turn them into plastic. And that's how you make plastic. So what you have is trans fatty acids. You have plastic fats. And that's what most of your donuts, your French fries, and all of your fast food places use, is hydrogenated vegetable oils to cook those foods. So you're eating plastic oils that are bound to affect maybe hardening in your system 30%. That's a lot. Okay, since this will be a repeat and everything, we're going to move forward to when the juice is finished. You can see the bowl getting very full with juice. So when we get to that point, so we don't make such a big mess, it's time to pour into a big glass jar. I like to use a big glass jar to do my mixing. Okay, so we'll turn the machine off. Take a small jar like this or another bowl and you put it under here because it will continue to drip. And then we pour into there. Now these pieces of beet are very tough and very hard, so sometimes you have to add a lot of extra force. Again, twist, and you don't have to add as much force. When you have a fat piece of celery like this, it's hard to push on this end, so I will push partially through, then remove it, and there I've got a flatter end with a lot more surface space that I can apply force. Usually push it down with the hand first, and then the plunger. And then continue juicing as usual. Now some people's juicers, if they put the celery in stalks like this, the fibers can wrap around the gears and cause it to not juice very well. If you have one of those juicers, then it's best to cut your celery into little pieces, like this. Again, if you have the right knife, this is a chef's knife, this is for cutting vegetables. See how easily it works. When you have the right tool, work is easy. Now what we do is just put these in here, and sometimes you have to put them a little at a time. There's more effort involved in this, but then you won't have to stop and clean your juicer if you have one of those juicers where the fibers collect around the gears. A little bit more work, so don't put too many in at one time, because then they'll get jammed in the shaft. Again, you're going to put other substances through in between, like the leafy greens, and then put the last bit of cucumber in there. Again, hear how mushy that's getting? So we need something more solid to go behind it, so we'll put a couple of beets in there. Again, beets are very hard. That's why I like to cut them in smaller pieces too. That is twice as hard as a carrot. And if you notice how weak humans are, humans don't eat dirt anymore. It has a lot to do with it. They don't have the probiotics. Dirt is very important. Bacteria is very important. And the industry and medicine, pharmaceutical houses want us to be sick, so they tell us to avoid bacteria. Like I said, for every one human gene, we have 100 to 150 bacterial genes. So we are a lot more bacterial than we are human. And I want to be strong like animals out in nature. I don't want to be weak like most humans are these days. Athletes are rare. Exceptional athletes are rare these days. And bacteria has almost everything to do with it. 95% of all the functions in your body are bacterially instigated and completed. I like pulp from my cucumber and the zucchini. Now, I blend those into the vegetable juice. They are collagen precursors. That's good for the skin, helps connective tissue. So, again, we have to peel these. Even if they were organic and didn't have the petroleum wax on it like you saw earlier on these cucumbers. Now you see the movement here? You start way in the back. You start in the mid, you have to cut into the skin. It's not easy. You start back here and you move smoothly in one fell swoop like that. Sure not to get your fingers when that happens. And sometimes you have a little indent and you have to go back and collect it. Sometimes the ends are a little firm, but not too bad. So we'll do this. Even though this is organic, we cannot digest cellulose, or a very minimal amount, maybe about 1% of all the vegetables you eat. You will digest only a certain amount about 1%, 2% of any raw vegetable that you eat. If you eat them cooked, of course, you're going to absorb a lot more, but then you have a lot of toxins that accompany it from the cooking process. So we're just going to eliminate the cellulose because that'll just disturb digestion. It'll cause alkalinity in the intestine when we have to have acidity in the intestine because of the putrefactive bacteria. Alkaline pulp like this that goes through the system will neutralize the intestinal bacteria and juices, and then we won't digest it very well. So what we do is then we slice this, slices like this. Again, don't have to be too small nor too big. Now if we want to, just so it goes and blends easier, we can cut this down the center like that. Cut these up a little bit. We can cut those a little bit more. So, easier to blend. We're going to do the same thing with the zucchini. What we can do with this one is we'll slice it like this in the center and then divide it. The zucchini isn't as slippery as the cucumber, so it's a little easier to cut it this way. Now what we will do is we have a quart jar. We're going to put zucchini is a little bit tougher, so I want to put those at the bottom. Those will go into the blades last. Cucumber. Now we do this after we finish all the juicing. And you see we have almost a gallon of juice there. We're shy about a cup and a half. Just push them down in there to make room. And then what we will do is we take some of the vegetable juice and we pour it into there. This will make a liquid from which we can blend those easily. And it'll keep out oxygen because we filled it almost to the top. Now we'll put the blender blades on top. Again, the washer goes against the glass and then the metal behind it. Make sure that the washer hasn't fallen down inside, and then screw this on. And always get a feel that the washer is on there evenly when you tighten it. And what we'll do is we will blend it. Now this one we won't have to mix around too much. It's a very heavy jar, but we're going to turn it on high. If you want to preserve it with a little honey and you like a little honey in it, you can add 1 tablespoon per quart. So we have a gallon here, so you could put 4 tablespoons at this stage if you want to. Now we've got all this pulp in here. We're going to mix it with all the rest of the juice. There we go. We have our almost a full gallon. What we'll do is we'll mix that and we're going to put it in smaller jars. Okay, now what we'll do is put the lid on here and shake this so that the pulp moves throughout the juice. And I would do this pretty quickly because the pulp will rise to the top frequently. So this way we keep it moving. I put it back in these because we're going to fill these jars with juice. If you're a larger person, you have that much juice at one time of the day. and you fill them almost all the way to the very top. See the foam up there. And then you refill it again. And we have a little 4-ounce jelly jar here. So we'll fill that. Some people only need 4 ounces of juice at a time. This is a 12-ounce. Again, almost to the very top. And this is an 8-ounce. Okay, now, if I put the lid on these, they're going to spill over. So, I take the foam bubbles off of the top. I don't worry about bacteria, it's good. It's the bacteria I want. Again, before you get it too tight, I'm going to push down on the lid, get more air out, because it'll take a good teaspoon more of air out of it, and that's sealed nicely. And here we have a lot of foam on the top. Now it's not quite full enough, so we'll fill it a little bit more. There we go. That's just about right. Put the lid on. Again, slightly push and turn tightly. Now sometimes when you do that, some of the juice will pour out the side because we've gotten all the air out of it. And here's the 4-ounce. And that's pretty good. A little low, so put a little bit more in. Not much foam to it. So put that down in there like that. And there we have it. Now we put these in the refrigerator, and for the amount of juice that we need at a particular time of the day, it's all available and ready. And you do that with all of it. So that should be 4 to 5 days, 3 to 5 days of your vegetable juice. If you do it right like this, it will last at least 4 days. Some people like it very fresh tasting, so 3 days may be maximum for them. I would take it 4 to 5 days. Okay, that's the juice. So let me show you how to eat a raw egg, how to suck an egg and make it very easy. Now I don't like to clean a jar in a glass. You can of course break it into a glass like Rocky and then suck it down. I like to take it right out of the shell so I don't have to clean. So there's a fat end and a more pointed end. So what I do is I hit it on an eye tooth, nice large surface, flatly on there, and I disrupt the integrity of the shell without making a hole. So now you see it's fractured on the bottom without making a hole. And then on this end I will hit it down on the eye tooth to make a hole. Now I have a hole. Now what I will do is I like to suck out the egg white first. The protein always digests first and primarily. It helps to digest the egg yolk that will follow. And the egg will digest in 27 minutes, especially if it's done this way. Now I mix the bacteria in the mouth. We have more bacteria than dogs and cats in the mouth. So that is to initiate the digestion of the egg before it even enters the stomach. Now I hold it, you notice I hold it down. When you hold it down and suck out gently, the egg white will come out and the egg yolk is heavier and won't rise as easily. Now the egg white just tastes like slightly salty water, a little thick, and of course if it's too thick sometimes you have to shake the yolk loose so that you can suck the egg white, all the egg white out without getting the yolk. I rather enjoy it. Now it's to the point where the yolk is rising up to the hole, so I just down it at this point. I love that rich egg yolk. Now you notice that the shell collapsed along with the membrane inside. That's because I broke the integrity here. It allowed it to collapse. That means that there's no egg left inside. As you see, it's completely empty. If I weren't to make a hole at the end, it wouldn't all come out. It would be stuck inside and I wouldn't get all the egg, all that nourishment. And eggs are frightfully expensive these days, especially good ones. So, bon appetit. Thank you for joining us here today, and I hope you've learned a lot, and now you know how easy raw food can be, and delicious, and nutritious, concentrated with good animal fats. Dairy, fish, chicken, beef, shrimp, cheesecake, blueberries, and vegetable juice. All wonderful and easy to make. Thank you, and like I said, bon appetit. Okay, milk. Delicious, wonderful milk. Milk is one of the most nutritious foods there is. Besides the egg, it is the most easily digestible. It only takes 6 to 10 hours to digest. Raw milk, of course. Once it's pasteurized, 50% of the calcium is cauterized. That means it's hardened into a hard substance that can be utilized to do what it's supposed to do in the body, including building healthy tissue. It has a tendency to build brittle bones and dry tissue when you're drinking pasteurized milk. Milk is the most easily digested food next to eggs. It only takes 6 to 10 hours. It's already liquid, so the body doesn't have to do much with hydrochloric acid or any of the digestive juices. What it will do is it will infiltrate with bacteria, and bacteria, as I said earlier, is the main process of digestion. So it all has to do is infiltrate it. Egg is the most digestible, and that digests in a matter of 27 minutes. Again, it doesn't require any hydrochloric acid or digestive juices to pre-digest it, to break larger particles of food down into smaller particles of food so that bacteria can eat it, consume it. And of course their waste is our food. Milk, if you buy regular milk from a big milk company, you'll notice that they say it's milk fat-free. That's because they will take the milk, they remove all animal fat from it, and they will put oils and esters in place of it. And they are usually vegetable oils. Remember what I said about vegetable oils, they will crystallize and harden in the body. So when you're drinking a very well-known, famous brand of milk, what they've basically done is taken the milk, they've deprived it of the protein, and they've deprived it of the fats. And it's a blue liquid. It has no relationship to milk at all, and it will have a very long shelf life. So then what they do is they take dolomite, mine calcium concentrated rock, and they shovel it into these vats to turn this blue fluid back into a white fluid, and it's all a false hoax. There is no relationship to milk at all in it. Plus, they use hydrogenated vegetable oils, which are plastic. So you have something that is totally foreign and chemical, and it isn't milk at all. The only place you can get totally pure raw milk is from a farmer who produces raw milk. There are a few states where you can get it commercially in stores, but that's not many. California is one. And you can go into some stores. Whole Foods is a joke again. Whole Foods has stopped carrying raw milk in California when they could. They say it's an insurance issue. Has nothing to do with insurance. They've carried insurance before. I talked to the insurance company and they're very willing to continue to insure that food, just like they insure the meats and everything else. So raw milk is a wonderful food. It helps calm the body. The cream in it is the only fat that completely nutrify the brain and nervous system. Butter can do it about 2/3, but raw cream and milk does it 100%.